automobile, my baby beside me at the wheel. I stole a kiss at the turn of a mile, my curiosity running wild. Cruising and playing the radio, with no particular place to go. Riding along in my automobile, I was anxious to tell her the way I feel. So I told her softly and sincere. She leaned and whispered in my ear, cuddling, soaring, sliding slow, with no particular place to go. Particular place to go. So we parked way out in the Kokomo. The night was young and the room was gold, so we both decided to take a stroll. Can you imagine the way I felt? I couldn't unfasten her safety belt, riding along in my calaboose, still trying to get that belt loose. All the way home I felt a grudge, good safety belt that wouldn't budge. Cruising and playing the radio, no particular place to go. That was No Particular Place to Go by Chuck Berry back in 1964. And I played that song straight off the chord charts of the Morristown Uke Jam. So check out that video link, download the free ukulele chord sheets, and you can play along with No Particular Place to Go. And if you're going to be in Morristown, New Jersey, on the first Wednesday of every month, come on by to the Morristown Uke Jam. You'll love it. All right, so that was No Particular Place to Go, Chuck Berry. Now that I've played the song through, what I'm going to do is go back. First, we'll talk about the chords. That won't take long. There's, other than that funky chord at the very beginning of the song, other than that, which appears, that's it, appears once and it's done. Other than that, there's only 3 chords in the entire song, 3 common chords, so it will not take long to go through the chords. Then we'll talk about the strumming pattern I used. Pretty straightforward, a typical rock and roll strum pattern. And then, I don't know if you noticed, but when we got to the last verse, instead of playing the rhythm, I did something a little different. I threw in a couple leads, and the reason I did that is that if you know the recorded version of the song, Chuck has he plays 2 different guitar parts. He plays a rhythm, but he also puts in a bunch of prototypical, beautiful Chuck Berry lead riffs in between the vocal lines. So I tried to mimic as best as I could some of those lead lines, just to show you which would work well, especially if you have 2 ukulele players. One person can lay down that rhythm, the other can do the stuff like that. So we'll talk about that for those who are interested in doing those little lead lines if you have a group of uke players. So anyway, let's start with the chords here. As you notice, that song starts with a very sort of unusual sounding chord. To the best that I could figure out when I was figuring out this chord, it is a B flat augmented. So what do you think of that? But anyway, who cares what it's called? It starts off the song. And here's the fingering for it. 7th fret on the bottom string, 6th fret on the 3rd string, 6th fret on the 2nd string, and 5th. So again, you play that exactly once. Then the riding along in my automobile, and that's it. That's the last you see in that chord. So again, once you get past that intro chord, there's 3 chords in this song. First one is G. 0, 2, 3, 2. Although let me make a note about these chords. If you getting ahead to the strum pad, I just want to show you that I was really only playing the bottom 3 strings because I was doing this, and we'll get into this more in a minute. So I had this finger here, but I was rarely, if ever, even hitting that string. It was. But again, that's the G. The next chord is C. 0, 0, 0, 3. And again, I had this finger here, but I really was hardly at all touching. I was doing. And not really even touching it. It's a real rock and roll, sort of a toggle pattern there. But again, that's the C chord. And the 3rd chord is a D, which we all have learned to play this way, right? 2, 2, 2, 0. I didn't even bother to play it. I just laid my fingers down here and went. So I never touched this top string because it wouldn't even be the right note. It was. So that's how I did it to give it that rock and roll feel. Now again, if you don't want to, if you'd rather just play straight rhythm, there's nothing wrong with that. You can just do riding along in my automobile, my baby beside me at the wheel. I stole a kiss at the turn of a mile, my curiosity running wild, cruising and playing the radio, with no particular place to go. So you can do that, but if you really want to give it the kind of feel that the recorded version has, it makes sense to do what I was doing. It's not hard to do. Here's the G chord. So you're just going back and forth by putting your pinky here. And then when you get to the C chord, again, I put this finger here, but it hardly mattered. And you just toggle here. And by the way, you may have noticed I have a low G ukulele here. This is not a typical high G. I like, for this songs like this, when you're doing things like this, I like this to be a low note. Now, there's nothing wrong. Let me get a high G uke here for a second just to show you. You can certainly do this. Just that this note's going to be an octave higher. So that note's going to be higher. So nothing wrong with it. I just prefer, for a song like this, having the low G to give that more of the lower feel. So again, that's the chords and that's the strum pattern. Again, it's an interesting song in that the lyrics and the instrumentation are separate, right? You riding along in my automobile, then this stops. My baby beside me at the wheel, I stole a kiss at the turn of a mile, my curiosity running wild. So it's an interesting song where you've got Chuck sings his lines, then in his case the guitar, in our case the ukulele comes in, and it goes back and forth. It makes an interesting format for the song. So that's really it for the chords. 3 chords plus that funky B flat augmented 7th that you play exactly once. And the only other thing I want to talk to you about is, again, what I did in the 4th verse. Instead of, I listened to the song, and Chuck does a lot of these incredible little leads as a second guitar. There's 2 guitar parts going on at the same time in the song. So for those who are interested in just trying to learn those, what I did for the G chord, I used the G chord shape. I went, I plucked these 2 strings at first, sort of, watch this hand, sort of ran it up like that. So it's these 2 strings. Then this note, open. So that's what I was doing there. And again, Chuck does something that sounds a lot like that, and sometimes then he does other things that, I can only do so many, listen to the song, because each little line is just so perfect for the song. Then when we got to the C chord, I did this, and again, this is based on listening to the song. I put my index finger on the 1st fret here, middle finger on this one, pick them both together. Watch this again. I took my hand off. Watch this again. Then just that string, and then back. So that's what I did there. And again, if you listen to a song, you may find some different licks that he did in the song that you prefer, but this was just to give you an idea of some options. Again, especially if you have 2 players where one can do the rhythm and someone else can do these neat little leads. And then for the, when we got to the D chord, I did this. Bottom, I put my index finger here because I'm just playing these bottom 2 strings. Watch my right hand. And here's what the left hand's doing. Then back to the G. So again, that's just an attempt to show you the kinds of leads that Chuck Berry was doing with that second guitar in that song. So again, that's No Particular Place to Go. If you notice, there's 2 instrumental verses in the song, one in the middle and one to end the song. I just played the chords there. So those of you who want to let loose your inner Chuck Berry, there's 2 opportunities in this song to do whatever kind of rock and roll soloing you might want to do. So again, have fun with the song.